I'm Joan Castineira at the Bach Foundation St. Gallen. I'm at the Gallus Media Recording Studio. It's February 18th, a very wintry, cold, snowy day here in St. Gallen. And I have the pleasure of having Rudolf Lutz by me. He just arrived from Japan with lots of appearances, lots of different programs. And by the way, I'm sure that what we're seeing here in the background seems familiar to you, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. That's a big organ I played on, and it's Kawasaki in the MUZA hall. 4 manuals, and I think more than 60 stops. A huge immense organ, and the great thing is the organ is built by a Swiss organ builder, by the Swiss organ builder Kuhn.
Kuhn. They brought it all the way to Japan. That's amazing. How did it feel to play a Swiss organ in Japan?
Oh, it was fine. I had even, the bench I sat on was exactly the same bench as I have been sitting 40 years in St. Laurenzen. So I felt really familiar.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to tell our friends in Japan and elsewhere. Most of you know Rudolf Lutz in his capacity as the artistic director of the Bach Foundation, where he is performing in the course of 25 years the entire vocal oeuvre of Johann Sebastian Bach. But what many of you probably don't know is that he has been an organist for 40 years at St. Laurenzen, at the Evangelical Church here in St. Gallen. So he has been playing organ all of his life and improvising. One of the things you did precisely at this hall, at the MUZA hall in Kawasaki, you played the Barber's Toccata Festiva with Tokyo Symphony Orchestra, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, which is a very difficult piece.
An absolutely terrifyingly difficult piece, I would precise. And it was, of course, a great chance for me, playing with this magnificent orchestra and with a very fine conductor, Anton Stefan Reck, I think, from Berlin. Mm-hmm. And this piece, this Barber piece, of course, it's technically difficult, and it's interwoven with the orchestra, and I'm about, you can see it on the hall beautifully, very, very far away. I think it's about 50 meters from the conductor, and so if I play a tone, then of course the tone doesn't come at that moment, so it's more like da, 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 and then I'm late. So if I want to be exact with the orchestra, I have to find the coordination. We had in-ears, that was quite fine, headphones, so I heard myself and the orchestra from the point of the microphone just nearby the conductor, and I heard myself late, so I always had to play in advance. And that was quite tricky, but I would say after a few little problems, we brought it beautifully to the spot.
So I'm sure it was a great success, and was just sorry not to be able to be there. I had to experience it from here. And you also gave various recitals, I believe, improvising yourself at the organ and even at the piano, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, for instance, at the Parnassus Hall in Himeji, you played one recital and you improvised on themes given by the audience, probably Japanese themes.
I received a beautiful Japanese tune just on stage, yes.
And then you improvised on it.
And I improvised on that.
So how do you prepare for an improvisation recital? I mean, is there a difference between improvising in public and performing a written work like a Bach cantata, for instance?
That's a great difference, of course. If I, let's say, compare my organ recitals with written pieces, there I just have to practice those pieces. I go to the hall, I go to the organ, I listen to the registrations, I look for the fine stops, I ask colleagues, is the bass not too loud? And or in the best case, I can even sit out and let my colleagues play the piece, which I can't do, of course, with the improvisations. That I've got a fine registration and a fine balance. And of course, working with improvisations, I have to then spontaneously find the right registration. What I can do is prepare sort of colors organ colors in advance, which I say that might go if I play a blues, that might go if I would play a prelude, that would go for a Vienna waltz and things like that. But actually, really improvising in the moment is also working with the organ in the moment, on the spot.
And I'm sure that was one of the elements you were teaching there. You devoted a lot of time to teaching, to being with students and telling them how to improvise. That's one of your commitments while in Japan. So we have some pictures here from your Niigata master classes, from your Habikino master classes, which we will see later. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience teaching there?
Was all beautifully prepared. You see the instruments, you see the screen, you see the chairs, you see the students. It was a fine experience because Japanese students are all incredibly interested in knowledge, and so I sort of show elements. Perhaps you can even take the next picture. One sees here two of my students playing at the same time, and as from Bach, my colleague Naomi Matsui, organ player and organ chef of the MUZA hall, she translated for me. We sort of had little models, little sequences, and we're always practicing playing in it a lot. If you take the next picture, and you see, of course, a bit of enthusiasm is important. People are smiling and playing, and I'm telling what I think they should do. And we need also a little bit of theory. I think it's the next one. Yeah, you see here the basitsans and the altitsans, and under my arm, the word affect.
What's affect? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Affect, that is sort of the character of a piece. Is it a sad piece? Is it a happy piece? And I try to show my students what are the possibilities, how to make a music sad, and what are the possibilities to make a music happy. Elements, I could perhaps compare it like working with Lego. You have to have your Lego, and then you build with your Lego stones. You can build a castle, or you can build a house, or something else.
I see. That's very, very interesting. Here we have some more elements of your master classes, this time on the piano. More organ. Oh, and who are these two ladies? Can you tell us?
Yes, they are very important for improvisation in Japan.
Yes.
Yeah, on the left you see Hiroko Asai. Hiroko-san is the president of the TOKIF, and on the right side you see Kaoru Tobashi. She is the president of the OSIF, and that sounds quite fine. TOKIF is the Tokyo Improvisation Factory, and OSIF is the Osaka Improvisation Factory.
Oh, I would like to say thanks to Hiroko, because we've been in touch with her during these days, during your tour of Japan, and she was very helpful to us. So thank you, Hiroko, for doing all your fine work from here.
And thank you, Hiroko. You were great help for me when I played the terrifyingly difficult Barber. She did the registration and turned the pages, and you as pianist know exactly how important it is that you've got somebody reliable.
Yes, absolutely. What a great experience. This is Habikino, I believe, which is a beautiful hall housing a Felsberg organ, also of Swiss construction. I mean, not very far from here, I believe. You can tell us.
Felsberg has his factory in the nearby Chur, and in St. Gallen we've also got a Felsberg organ in the St. Mangen Church.
Beautiful instruments.
And if you see on the loft, on the organ loft, you see all the students working.
There they are. Fleißig, as we say in German, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. All great composers, I mean, we are focused on Bach here, the Bach Foundation, obviously, but all of them, I would say, were great improvisers.
Definitely.
And today, a lot of performers are no longer able to improvise. Why do you think that is happening in today's world?
Well, I would say that would be a long story to tell. I imagine it's got to do with the perfection of composition and saying the individuality, let's say Beethoven and his incredible pieces, every note is fixed. And that you say, well, with improvisation you can't exactly get to that point. In the Baroque time it was absolutely crucial that you were able to improvise when you wanted to have a post as an organist. You didn't play pieces, you played improvisations, and directly you said, do a fugue on that theme, play a prelude which modulates, take a chorale, do it in the bass, do it in the tenor, do it in the soprano, play a passacaglia. And I would say nowadays there's still the organists who do the most of improvisation, but if you look at the pianists, they play Chopin, and if you ask them to play a little piece alone, they are lost. And I think getting back to improvisation is a great thing, because not only it's a pleasure to improvise, but in doing it yourself, you start to understand the construction of a piece, the forms of the piece, the middle voices of a piece, things like that.
So what influence does improvisation, your work on improvisation, have on your performing of the Bach cantatas, which is the mission of the Bach Foundation?
That's also a very interesting question, Schwan. Perhaps trying to get that in a shortcut, I would say, if I am able to construct a cantata myself, how do I work with the text? How do I set the harmonies? How do I set the solo voice when I repeat the part but in another tonality, where you've got a completely different ambitus of the voice, things like that. If I do it myself, I've got much more understanding of what's actually happening in the Bach cantatas. So I can be a little colleague of John Sebastian and say, I've tried also to get a second oboe and the altos or the tenors together, and look that I haven't got any parallel octaves and things like that. And how do I work with the sound? How do I get the flutes in? How can I make a good balance that you really hear everything? And in improvising and in composing, I've got the feeling I can go into the same process and adapt that and compare that with the written works.
So performing, interpreting a written work like a Bach cantata is also, in a way, a very, very creative activity.
Oh yes,
And
sure.
Absolutely, and improvisation has impinges on that style and on that preparation. It is, as I mentioned, the middle of February now, and we are approaching Easter time, which is, musically speaking, the time of the Passions, right? St. Matthew Passion, St. John's Passion. This year we are not doing any St. Matthew Passion, I believe, at the Bach Foundation, but 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 2012, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 2012.
We had the big project of the St. Matthew Passion going on. We have here some of the advertisements that were hanging around the city here in St. Gallen for that. We don't have the Matthew Passion this year, but we have some Easter-related cantatas coming up soon. So can you tell us a bit about your Easter-related projects and cantatas?
Well, the Easter-related cantata will come in April. That will be 158. Der Friede sei mit euch. It's a bass cantata. It's Jesus coming and telling his disciples who were quavering from anxiety, what's happening? He said, I'm here, peace on you. Peter Harvey, I think, will be the bass soloist. And in March we are now in the moment, because we haven't got very many cantatas in the Passion time, because Bach had the Tempus Clausum, I think one called that.
In Leipzig, right?
Yes, you didn't have any church music at that time, but we took a Trauerode. What's that in English?
Oh, it was like incidental funeral music,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
For the Fürsting.
Yes, yeah, from Saxon.
Yes.
Eberhardine, and that's a great piece, of course. I've got the feeling you could use a lot of those pieces for a Matthew Passion or for any other sort of passion. I think Bach used a few of those movements for the Marcus Passion.
We've talked about this usage by Bach of transferring material from previously composed works into other compositions or textual elements even, but also musical material. That's one of the parodie technique I think we've talked about before at some point. Well, we're looking forward to all of these projects, to perhaps a few vacation days over Easter as well.
I think there are about 2 or 3. Yes.
Yes. And any further Japan plans? Are you planning to go back to that great country?
I was invited a 5th time now in July. I'll be working with Ossi von Tokiv at Karizawa. That's fine in the height, about 1,000 meters, so it's not so terribly hot. And then afterwards I will have concerts again in MUZA with a jazz pianist together. Saya, his name. We just had a few little rehearsals already, and I will be working with Japanese children, which I'm looking forward very much. I've got, of course, somebody who has a fine German language to translate what I'm doing, and we'll do storytelling, we'll do singing, we'll do Swiss songs perhaps even, and that will be surely a great experience for me.
Sounds wonderful. What a great conversation. How good to have you back here in St. Gallen. Thank you so much for taking the time of talking to us today.
Oh, it was a great pleasure, and also telling from my experiences in lovely Japan.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching.